Welcome, everybody, to our September hug for B2B technology. Today, we have the lovely Jay Schwedelson, who's going to talk about how B2B tech marketers can not only improve, but radically improve email formats right now. Right now. He's one of my favorite speakers of all time. I'm not just complimenting you, it's very true. He just got done doing 3 sessions at Inbound, if you missed him there. So, really excited to have him here today presenting with us.
Awesome. So we just do it. Let's rock and
Yeah,
roll.
let's go to one next slide here. I'll give myself a little intro so people know who the
Oh
hell
yeah.
I am. I'm Jen. I'm the self-titled here head honcho over at Kiwi Creative. We are a marketing agency for B2B technology companies, which is why we host this B2B Tech Hug every quarter here. This quarter is email, and I'll let Jay take it away from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen, and thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I know how hard it is to carve out time in your day, so I'm going to try to make this worthwhile. I talk really fast, I really do, but that's because I want to get you as much information as humanly possible, and I'll make sure to send you these slides and all that fun stuff. It's not super relevant who I am, but the reason I'm going to tell you who I am is that way you know where my data comes from. So I own an agency called Outcome Media. We also have subjectline.com is a division of my company, Guru Events, all this stuff. And we do both business and consumer marketing. We don't just do email, we do direct mail, we do a lot of other stuff. But on the email side, on behalf of our clients, we transmit roughly 6 billion email messages across 8 different platforms. And the beautiful part about being here with you guys today is that we do a lot in B2B technology category in terms of driving content distribution, demand generation, getting really lots of activity via email for this marketplace. So I understand your pain quite well. So anyway, with that being said, I want to jump into all of that. So we take all the data from all the campaigns that we execute on and we aggregate it and we come out with these statistics and trends and stuff. And I don't like talking about stuff from a year ago or even 2 years ago. Or that so much old information is out there as it relates to email marketing. So our stats are very up to date, up to last 6 months, 3 months, 30 days, 60 days, and you'll see all of that. And then also there's a lot of information out there about open rates being skewed by things with Apple and bots and all of that. So all of our data, all of our stats are normalized, meaning we've accounted for all of the different funky elements that are out there. So when we show you these trends, it's not inflated because of all of the issues that are out there. We've normalized all of that data. All right, so let's jump into the first topic. And a lot of what I talk about, first of all, my slides are ugly. Let's get that out of the way. That's fine. You can make fun of me. Don't care. But a lot of what I talk about, you may hear is against the grain. A lot of information that you hear in the marketplace about email is very old. Things like why you get filtered or how much you should be sending or not sending. And I'm here to tell you it's different, right? So a lot of times marketers would be like, oh, we're sending out too much. In reality, you're actually sending out not enough. And you're like, yeah, right. You don't know how much that I send out. When we look at on the B2B side specifically, and you have an offer that you're sending out, you have a white paper, you have a checklist, you have a guide, you have some form of piece of a content or a webinar that you're trying to get people to sign up for. A good example of not sending out enough is we did a recent study on if you send out your offer related emails twice over 3 days, right? You send it out on a Tuesday and then again on a Thursday versus 3 times over 3 days, 3 days in a row. We actually see 3 times send increases response rates 31% versus a 2 times send. Things like this can make a huge, huge difference. Here's an example of Salesforce doing just that 3 days in a row. Now, for me, I would actually change the subject line. I would build that urgency. First email, introduce the offer. Second email, builds on that urgency. And the last email is last chance, right? But this idea of you're sending out too much is really wrong. And I know what you're thinking is going to be unsubscribes, and we're going to talk about that in a second. I thought this was funny. I got this email where it says, are 3 touches enough to engage the modern buyer? And then they sent it to me 4 times, right? So it always makes me laugh that, yes, you can be sending these things out more. Now, DJ Khalid is 100% right? Another one. And again, this is where I'm talking about going against the grain and sending out more. Let me give you an idea. We did a whole review of when you send out your first touch, second touch, third touch, fourth touch, and 5th time send on the same offer over a 2-week period. okay, over a 2-week period, and we did a huge study on this, what was the impact in terms of unique opens, and unique clicks over a 2-week period, and also increases in unsubscribes? So if you were to send out 100,000 emails promoting a single offer, let's say it's a webinar, right? Over that 2-week period on the B2B side, your average opens and unique clicks and unique unsubscribes, okay, you would get, if you did that full 5-time touch send, all right, you get 19,000 more unique opens, 1,500 more unique clicks, and 130 more unsubscribes. And the problem with marketers, what we all do is we think people care. We think people care that, oh, I can't send it out more than 3 times because I'm bothering people. On average, okay, if you average, let's say, a 30% open rate on what you send out, what does that actually mean? It actually means 70% of the people that you're emailing to never opened it. They don't even know they got it. They don't care. They're not thinking about you. But if you do send it out that 1 more time, that 2 more times, you're going to get that additional response. And the interesting thing about unsubscribes, if you go ahead and you pull all your unsubscribed data, okay, and you look at the engagement of those contacts, when's the last time they really clicked on a message, okay, that you would send to them, you'll see 94%, okay, of the ongoing unsubscribes that you're getting are people that are not engaged to begin with at all. Maybe they've changed their jobs, they've changed their function, they're in a different career, it doesn't matter, right? So only in this scenario here, at 100,000 emails, only eight people would be real, what I would call real unsubscribes, that would be meaningful in any kind of way. And when you go back to your inbox, you're going to see more and more marketers that send out literally, I'm not telling you should send out daily, but you'll see more and more marketers. And here's eMarketer, for example, sending out literally daily. They're the ones who are supposed to teach us what to do. Okay, so 92% of unsubscribes are from people who have not opened or clicked in over 6 months. Now, the key thing there, spam complaints hurt your deliverability. Unsubscribes don't. And this is something that marketers don't generally really factor into their brain. Okay, they don't factor into their brain. They don't hurt your deliverability. They're not bad. They're actually good. What do I mean by that? I don't know why I get cat facts. I don't have a cat. It's very weird, but I don't unsubscribe. Okay. But here's what you have to wrap your mind around when it comes to unsubscribes. Okay. When someone does a spam complaint, yeah, that's bad. That can hurt your deliverability and get you into the junk folder and all that. But the vast majority of what you receive are unsubscribes, taking you off your list. Now, why does somebody unsubscribe? They unsubscribe, right? Because again, they've changed a life stage, they've got a promotion, they changed their jobs, they don't need your services anymore because they've already onboarded that vendor, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And what is an unsubscribe? An unsubscribe is somebody gets the email, they decide, okay, I no longer want to be involved with that. They open the email. In order to unsubscribe, they click on something in the email. Ironically, that's engagement. Okay. It's actually a positive when it comes to deliverability. Okay, so unsubscribes are actually a win. They clean up your database, they get boat anchors off your file, and they actually generate engagement. So when somebody tells you, hey, you're sending out too much, we're getting too many unsubscribes, or heaven forbid, you get a nastygram. What's a nastygram? A nastygram is when, somebody writes in and says, you're a horrible person. Why are you sending me all this? I hate you, right? And it gets circulated to the CEO of your company. And then all of a sudden a meeting gets called and they say, freeze everything, stop sending, because you got this one email, right? You can't let the loudest voice in the room dictate your marketing efforts, which is what always happens with unsubscribes. So I'm trying to liberate you from thinking about unsubscribes in such a way that it's really changing how much you send, because sending more works and people don't actually care about what you're doing. So even if you don't do a 5-time send for every offer, if you increase by 1 more send, it will work. So let's get on to other topics. And I'm all over the place. I try to rattle off as many different trends, topics, and things that we're seeing out there, so that way there's lots of things to test. And everything I'm all about is testing. Okay. So if I put out there 20 ideas and you test 10 of them and 3 of them work, that's a home run, right? You may not feel like it's a home run because 7 of them failed, but that's a home run because now you have 3 new things to keep utilizing in your arsenal. Here's an example of that. Specifically on the B2B side of things, right? When you are sending out an offer-related email, okay, we did an analysis on click-through percentage versus word count. The less words that you have in your message, okay, the higher the click-through rate is. Why? Because once again, people barely open up your email. They're barely interested when they open up that email. They're not like, oh my God, I'm so excited for this email. Nobody ever feels that way. And so they're barely in there. And so we have to make it so easy for them to digest the information. Bulleted items, right? 3 bulleted lines, big headline information. You don't need to tell them everything. You need to tell them enough that they're interested and they get excited and they go on to the destination page, they fill out the form, they download the thing, they get involved. So this chart shows you need to keep it really under 100 words for the entire campaign. And just by looking at this on the screen, which one are you more interested in? The one on the left or the one on the right? If you're interested in the one on the left, then good for you. You like to read really long, boring things. But most people want the thing that's quick and easy to digest, and that's the win. What about images? Constant Contact did a study, okay, on what is the optimal number of actual images, hero images, right? Not background images, but hero images. And it actually came down to being one image, right? One image generated the highest average click-through rate in messages. Keeping it so simple in your messaging, whether it's words or images, is what people want. They're moving so quickly, they don't have time to consume all the stuff that you want them to consume. So it's things like that that really do make a difference. And you may be saying to yourself, Jay, I signed up for this. I wanted some big idea to change everything, but that's not email. Email is a series of little wins, right? Every time you hit send, you have to say to yourself 2 things. One, what am I doing to have my email stand out and not all the other emails that are coming in at the same time? What did I just do to make it stand out? And 2, you always need to be testing something. Test something every time you hit send. It's an opportunity to test. Here's a great example of a test that works really well that most marketers don't think about. When you are sending out your campaigns, right? You're sending out your campaigns. If it's not a trigger campaign or some sort of drip campaign, even if it is a drip campaign, but it's not a trigger, right? What do we normally do? We set up our campaigns to go out on the hour, 7 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock. It's always on the O clock. What we don't realize is that over 80% of all email campaigns are actually sent out on the exact hour. What does that do? It causes 70% of all email traffic to occur within the first 10 minutes of every hour. That stinks. Okay, why does that stink? Because you're probably doing that and your emails are showing up at the exact same time as everybody else's emails. If you just have your email show up a little bit later, okay, schedule your email to go out at 7:15, 7:20, 7:22, whatever it may be. Your emails then are not getting lost in the crowd. They're not showing up at the exact same time as everything else. Just by tweaking when your emails are going out can actually boost your open rates by 15%. The little things like this make a difference. They really do. And it's all about testing. It's all about testing. And I'm going to say that till I'm blue in the face. This slide is the ugliest side of all time. I mean, it doesn't get uglier, but this is your jam, right? If you are focused on B2B tech, there is no more of a jam slide than this one. And why do I say that? We did an analysis, we do an ongoing analysis of this, of offers. Okay, what are the key offers? And these are the key offers in B2B tech. Okay, and then month by month, when the emails go out and the offer is mentioned in the subject line, what is the average open rate? It's sort of meaningless what the numbers say, but the trend line is what's important. And this trend line shows us which offers are resonating the most, right? As of literally up to August, right? And so what we see is, for example, webinar is that blue dot. Okay, webinar is that blue dot. If you rewind about a year ago or so, webinars were doing a lot better. Webinars, ironically, we're on a webinar. Webinars are doing much worse now, right? We know nobody wants to sign up for a webinar. Nobody has time for a webinar. We're all as busy as could possibly be, right? So we see the trend line going down. So if internally, like, I don't know why our webinars aren't working. Is the speaker bad? Did we pick the wrong day? Blah, blah, blah. No, in general, webinars are not performing as well, right? You see things like ebook, which is the yellow thing on the bottom. If you're tasked with using an ebook to drive your performance, I wish you a lot of luck, because that is a fool's errand. It's very, very, very hard, okay? Because nobody really downloads an ebook. Nobody certainly ever reads the ebook they download. It's one of the hardest offers to utilize, and it has been. If you're using an infographic, that's weird. That hasn't been a good offer in about 10 years. Now, the ones that are doing really well Okay, lists and checklists are doing phenomenal. The 7 reasons why you should use, CRM software, the 10 hidden secrets about blah, blah, blah. Lists and checklists are easy to digest, fast to consume. People, it makes them smarter. They like it. It's easy on their own time. On-demand webinars are doing phenomenal, as opposed to not just on-demand webinars, on-demand video content, okay, is doing phenomenal. And free guides and industry reports are doing really, really well. So this chart here really tries to lay out for you the different offers that are surging versus not surging. Again, ebook. If you're leading with an ebook, same actually works for webinar. What you really don't want to do, and you saw in that last example, it was promoting an ebook. This one's also promoting an ebook, but the difference is, what did they do? In the subject line of the last one, it's first thing it says is ebook. In the subject line of this one, it talks about the topic, the 5 Azure backup and recovery must-haves. This is it may seem like semantics, but this conceptually is huge, and not just related to ebook, but I would also relate this to webinar content. You actually are much better off from an open rate perspective, not talking about the fact that it's an ebook or a webinar, but talking about the specific content, right, that the person's going to get. So in this case, it's 5 Azure backup and recovery must-haves, because you're telling the person, this is the awesome information you're going to get. Because right now, webinar and ebook are a little bit of a negative word, but you get them engaged by giving them the topic, and then you hook them inside of the message themselves. It allows your open rates to stay high. Another thing that's working well, instead of saying on demand, is saying watch now. On demand inherently sounds old, right? It sounds old, like it's legacy information. Whereas watch now is an active phrase. So in your subject lines, in your call to action buttons, actually saying watch now instead of saying on demand, we see an open rate increase of 27%. So again, these small things really do add up. And that's why more and more in the subject lines, when someone's promoting a webinar, they actually won't even say it's a webinar until you get in the message. Okay, because it's time consuming, it's boring, it fills up the calendar. So that's one of the reasons you're seeing the word webinar used less and less, right? Now, I share with you that tips and checklists are doing really well, right? In the last 60 days, subject lines promoting list content, like you see here, 5 considerations moving to the cloud, 6 reasons to choose Oracle, increase open rates 27%. Okay, why? Again, it's simple to digest, it performs really well, and it makes the person smarter, and that's ultimately what they want, right? And you could see just a zillion examples of this. Another interesting small note is, when you come out with a list, instead of having it say 10, you want it to be a non-round number. Non-round number is anything that's not 0, 5, or 10, something like that. So it's 7 this, 9 that, 8 this. Non-round numbers, for some reason or another, seem more legit, and they do far better than round numbers, which is a really random stat. So again, something to consider is making a list, utilizing that. It's the top performing piece of content right now on the B2B side of things, certainly within B2B tech for sure. So more tips way too fast. That's what I do. I just can't stop. I am like a train. So this one's really random, and you're like, come on, that's not going to work, whatever. But again, it's all about testing. So one of the divisions of my company is subjectline.com. You can go there, test your subject line. It's free. It tells you how good or bad your performance is going to be. And we're looking at words all the time. We're looking at what words are driving performance. And in B2B, the word tips is doing really well. It's lifting open rates by 21%. Why, right? And what do I mean by that? So you say HubSpot here, 7 tips for a better mobile, whatever, website experience, right? And you'll see the total retail report, 5 tips for retailers, blah, 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 blah. Tips, what does it say to you? It says this is going to be really quick. This ain't going to take a lot of your time, and it's going to make you smarter. That's it. Less time, I get smarter, I'm opening that up. So this idea of tips is a great one. Okay, and tips doesn't mean, it could mean a checklist, right? It can mean a lot of things. So it's a great test idea. And again, I know I'm rattling off a lot of stuff, but I want you to walk away from here with a lot of anxiety because I talk too fast. And then also a lot of things to possibly test. Another easy win is making sure that your primary image, you send out an email, it's got a big hero image in there. They click on the links, they go to a landing page, and on that landing page, what is the hero image? When that hero image, that primary image is the same in the email as it is on the landing page, we see a 29% higher overall conversion rate. right? Why? Because people need a sense of comfort. They need to know that they're in the right place, that the thing that they just did, that took them to the right place. So it's such an easy thing to do. 99% of what I talk about costs you no money, right? It costs you no money. It's something you could just tweak and do, and it's a win. All right, video in email. Can I do that? I get that question all the time. Can I put video in email? Now, technically, you want to put a short video in your email. Can you do it? Yes. I'm super anti doing that for a couple of reasons. First off, it will create a large file size. I don't care what ridiculous technology you're using, and there's 75 different technologies that say you could do it just fine. I'm telling you, it's a bad idea from a deliverability standpoint. But the other reason, I'm not talking about animated GIFs. Animated GIFs in email is great. But the other reason that video and email is bad is because we are not trained. We're all trained animals, trained dogs. That's how we function on the planet, right? We are not trained to watch a video and email. We're trained to click on something and then do something. That's what we're trained to do. So we need to leverage that. The best way, because we all want to have video, people down, consuming the video content, the absolute best way to have that video content consumed is like this. You send out an email, you take a screen grab of the first, start of that video, and then you put a big red play button, like you see here, right in the center of that image. Okay, and you send out an email, and that image is clickable, and it goes to your destination page where the video is. Why does it work so well? It works so well, increases click rates by 34% by having that big red play button, because we are trained. When we see that big red play button, we're like, oh my God, I have to click it. It's like our mouse magically moves over that play button. There's nothing that we can do to stop it. Okay, so it is the best way to have your video content consumed is to take a screen grab. It's one image, no deliverability problems. Big red play button, they click on it, they go to your landing page, they click again, and it's for the win, right? No brainer. Other things that are working really well in the subject line are questions subject lines. Okay, are you at a career crossroads, gearing up for planning season, whatever it is, whatever your content is, turn it into a question. Right? Why do people love watching Jeopardy? Why do we care about any of that? We like questions and we like answers. It's in the subconscious. It's not like you get an email and they ask a question and you're like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I need to know the answer. No, we just need to know. We just need to know the answer to stuff. In the last 3 months, question-related emails in the subject line, the B2B side, increased open rates by 24%. No brainer, easy. Again, this is all easy stuff. So more crazy stuff. Day of marketing is so important. So many people, especially in the B2B tech space, are moving around so fast. Decision makers that are considering different types of technology to onboard and whatever, they're busy. They're just busy. They don't have time for anything. But they still want your content. They still want that information, but they're probably not paying attention until it's that day. I mean, when do we actually care about certain things? We care about a rocket ship 10 seconds before, not a week before. You care about a birthday, maybe, if it shows up on Facebook that day, maybe. And an offer, you care about it like hours prior to the expiration of that offer. So last chance email sent the day of. Don't think sending it the day before is enough. Send the day before also, but the day of. Business offers sent within 6 hours of event occurring or the offer ending have an increased response rate of 31% versus not doing one a day of send it all. It's a critical piece of the pie. Day of is important. Ann Hanley, love Ann Hanley, right, from Marketing Profs. I follow her. She's a good buddy of mine. She's awesome. And if you don't follow her, you should. But Ann Hanley posted this on Twitter not too long ago. She wrote, and this is awesome, right? She wrote, your from line matters more than your subject line. Whoa. And she wrote, this is the single biggest thing I've learned in 2.5 decades as a marketer. I mean, come on. That's a big statement that your from line matters more than your subject line. Now, why is she saying that? What exactly does that mean? Here's exactly what that means. When we send out an email campaign, we oftentimes think about, what is my offer in the email? What do my call to action buttons say? What's my subject line? What day of the week should I send it out? Did legal approve it? Do all the click-throughs work? Are my tracking tags working? 75,000 things. But how much time do you spend on your friendly from? Probably zero. What do I mean by that? Look here, right? You see Salesforce events. You see eMarketer webinars. What exactly is going on here? Now, I know you're going to say, oh, I know about this, but do you really is the question. When I send you an email, it shows up in your inbox. It says J. Schwedelson. Looks all nice. But my real email address is the letter J, Schwedelson at Corp WD. I set up a friendly from or an alias on my email address. Now, you're sitting here saying, well, of course, we do that too. My brand is the Acme Company, and it says Acme Company. But why is that what you're doing? Why is that what you're doing? Meaning, when friendly from addresses that match the topic of the subject line offer, they have an increased open rate of 34%. When the friendly from matches the topic of the subject line, okay, 34% lift. What do I mean by that? When Microsoft sends out their email, it could easily say Microsoft Azure Team. It could say Microsoft. It doesn't have to say Azure Team. Salesforce could just say Salesforce. No. What are they doing? They are utilizing the friendly from, depending on what the offer is. If it's a Salesforce webinar, Salesforce white paper, Salesforce checklist, okay, Salesforce FYI, Salesforce daily, it doesn't matter. Every time you send out an email, you could change that friendly from to say whatever you want. This has nothing to do with your actual email address. It could say howdy doody. You could literally have it say whatever you want every single time. It takes under 5 seconds to do, and it will boost your open rate by over 30%. Why? Because when people get the email, the first thing they do is they look at that. They're like, oh, this is about a webinar. Oh, this is about a white paper. This is about an event. This is about a whatever. It immediately establishes relevance. Immediately. But the other big win, which marketers don't realize, by utilizing that friendly from, it allows for a dramatic increase in sending. Okay, so when Salesforce, for example, sends out their emails, and they don't do it on every email, but they utilize this a lot, and a lot of other marketers do too, because they know this. When you start getting emails, Salesforce Marketing or Salesforce Pardot or Salesforce Connection, whatever it is, you're not upset that you're getting all these emails because it almost feels like it's multiple senders, it's different divisions, it's different whatever. Okay, and this is one organization, American Academy of Dermatology, showing you all the different friendly froms they're using, and it's going to their whole database. It's going to their whole database. How about Apple, right? Here's Apple. I'm getting 4 emails from Apple. Now, am I upset? Am I upset because I got 4 emails in one day? They only have one email address for me. No, because I know it's 4 different things going on with their friendly from the App Store, Apple TV, Apple Card, Apple News. And this is the same thing for you. You're promoting a webinar, you have your newsletter, you have a report, you have your FYI, whatever it is. Utilizing that friendly from is a win. Sending 3 emails per week from 3 friendly from addresses, 3 emails from 3 different friendly from addresses versus sending 3 emails from 1 friendly from address. Using 3 different friendly from addresses increases your open rate by 41%. Again, super easy to do, costs you nothing, no brainer. Let's keep on moving on. It's amazing how much you can cover in 30 minutes, right? Holy cow, that's a lot of information so far. I don't even know what we're talking about anymore, but that's all right. This is a soapbox I'm standing on. And some of you are like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. But let me tell you why you should fight the internal battle. We're talking about, I'm saying it's like 1985 is people go to your site, right? Client sites, whatever, and they go to register. And what are you doing? You're saying, no, 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 no. It needs to be a business email address, business domain. We don't allow Gmail, Yahoo, Comcast, whatever. Sorry, we don't do that. Let me tell you why I think you need to open it up to everybody just to plant a seed, okay? Number one, we're obviously in a very mobile world these days. Everyone's all over the place. That doesn't really tie into the email so much, but people are changing jobs more than ever. But more important than that, social platforms, specifically LinkedIn on the business side, are becoming more and more relevant in terms of prospect marketing, demand generation, content syndication for B2B tech companies, right? Running promotional campaigns within the LinkedIn environment. When you run a demand generation program on LinkedIn and you get someone submits their data, or Twitter or Facebook or anywhere else, but LinkedIn specifically for this audience, right? And they give their data by hitting, select or download or sign up or whatever on the platform, and you get that file from LinkedIn on everybody, all the leads that were generated. It's only consumer domains because everybody registered on LinkedIn with their consumer address because they may move around and whatever. So more and more your database is going to be populated with these contacts, okay, with these consumer-based domains. So if you think you're winning the battle by not allowing these domains in. It's not true, because you're going to need them anyway from other orifices of your marketing. Registration rates go up 27% when you allow any address to be submitted. So I encourage you to think differently about this, because that's where the direction of the world is going. Apparently, we're all full of it. Okay, so what does this topic mean? There's a lack of trust on the planet. If you haven't noticed, nobody trusts each other. Nobody trusts anybody. That's fine. That's not changing, but that's bleeding into marketing. It's bleeding into marketing, because so often now in marketing, and we're inundated with information where we see this is the best, this is the greatest, this is the worst. Everything is superlative, and no one believes anything. Now, though, we're seeing the reverse in subject lines. If you say things like the truth being the keyword, the truth about first-party data strategy, okay, the true cost, okay, what's the real cost of corporate gifting, the real value of your customer data. When you see things like true, truth, actual, real, on the B2B side, it's increasing open rates by 28%, because we just don't believe anything. And instinctively, when we see true, truth, actual, real, these are the real leaders in the tech space. This is the truth behind CRM software. We're like, oh, okay, this thing I'm going to check out, right? This is what I'm going to check out. And Apple uses this tactic all the time, right? Because they know what's working and what's not. I don't like what ClickZ does here. A little bit too extreme for me, where it says, be honest. What do you think about the shift to personalized marketing, right? So it's this whole idea of lack of trust, but it works really well. Part of that is the word really. Okay, you're like, the word really does really well. What demand marketing really means. What does Web3 really matter, right? These things actually have an impact. The word really does really well. It increases open rates right now by 19%. And again, you're probably sitting there saying, I'm not doing this. This is ridiculous. But this is why some emails get open, other ones don't. And you're like, well, that's a gimmick. That's whatever. This is called marketing, right? 6 months from now, 12 months from now, it could be very different. Like, I just did 3 sessions at Inbound. I don't think there was a single thing I talked about this year's Inbound that I talked about last year's Inbound, because it's always changing. And people say, well, email's dead, email's legacy, email doesn't work. It doesn't work if you don't want to try the latest of what's going on, right? That's how email works. So another thing is negative outcome subject lines, right? We're all like doomsdayers here. Negative outcome subject lines are increasing open rates by 31%, right? And that could be all sorts of stuff. And usually the word mistakes is the secret sauce in this area. The number one mistake most marketers make when running paid ads. I mean, think about that. If you send an email, the biggest mistakes to avoid for blah, 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 whatever the software is that you're promoting, or blah, blah, blah. Inherently, you have to, if you're in that world, like, oh my God, I don't want to make that mistake, right? I don't want to make that mistake. I need to check it out. Avoid these mistakes when evaluating vendors. That's what the last bottom subject line says. How can you not open that up? It's impossible. If you're doing your job, you have to open it up. And let's talk about newsletters for a second. Newsletters are so boring. We probably all have newsletters. Our clients have newsletters, whatever it may be. They're so boring. And after the first 2 or 3 that goes out, nobody reads them. One of the biggest problems is the subject line. We make it the same thing every single time. It's so boring. I get Goodreads newsletter all the time. I love finding out what books to read. The most exciting thing that happened in Goodreads was I forgot the word "the" in one of them. It's literally, I could print this out, put it on my wall. It's actually wallpaper. A trend that's working really well, yes, in the B2B space. Every one of these that you're looking at here is a B2B newsletter. This gets delivered, you don't get filtered, none of that. Emoji as your first character of an e-newsletter increases open rates 27%. You're like, I'm not using emoji, I market to enterprise technology professionals. That is garbage. If these were called business icons instead of emojis, you would use them. Okay, 94% of all B2B receiving email clients and email infrastructures can view emojis with no issue. It stands out. It's all about testing. It is all about testing, but make sure it's that first character and increase open rates by 27%. So we're definitely going to rip through a couple of free things I have for you guys, then we'll see if there's any questions by anybody. So My organization puts out a calendar. It's the best and worst days to send out your email. We have 2022, and we now also have 2023. Green days are days that are going to perform really well. Red days are days you may want to avoid. These seem to perform well for people. If you like the calendar, you can email me and I'll send you links to the calendar. It's pretty cool. Subjectline.com. It's a site that we have. You can check out free subject lines. I have a newsletter called Scoop. It's a free newsletter where I have all the trends that I put out there that you may want to sign up for. Also, and I'll put my email address in a second, my organization has put on a free 2-day virtual email conference, 2-day 35 speaker. A lot of B2B tech folks are going to be there speaking. Again, it's free. We have 9,000 people registered to attend. It's going to be in November. I'll be speaking there. guruconference.com for free registration. If you want to be signed up for Guru, get the slides, get the calendars, sign up for Scoop. All you got to do is email me at the address on the screen, jays@corpwd.com. Please also connect with me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with everybody on LinkedIn. It's fun. It's what I like to do. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'll put my email address up in the chat and see if anybody has any questions. Wow, I talk fast.
All right, we had 2 questions come through the chat. The first one was from Cassidy. She wants to know about sending out last-minute emails, specifically day of emails for events when you need a firm number beforehand and can't have that go over a certain limit. Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. I mean, that's a tough one because obviously you need an absolute firm number. I would actually push in the other direction. Obviously, you don't want to go over a number, right? You can't go over if you have a capacity issue. That's certainly a problem. But I would push back on saying, why do you need an absolute firm number, right? Because the whole point is you're doing marketing, you're trying to land the plane, trying to get as many as possible. So there's no perfect answer in saying, what do you do? But I would push back and be like, we need a platform, we need an environment where I don't have to tell you that there's going to be 112 people. It might be 115. That doesn't really help you, does it?
All right, we had one more from Danielle. She wants to know if you would recommend putting words like webinar in the friendly from versus in the subject line.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So the word webinar, unfortunately, is really stained right now. And again, it's going to all be about testing. I definitely like the idea of events, right? Like Acme events, right? Instead of the word webinar. But again, that friendly from is another variable about testing. So you would do an A/B test of whatever your regular one is, and then let's say your company's name is Acme, regular Acme, and then you split it and do Acme webinar, do another one, Acme events, and really keep tinkering with that and testing it until you see what's working. But I would also designate for your newsletter things like people like to do things like FYI, like, Acme FYI, really come up with naming conventions of all the different things that you're putting out there, because it does give you a license to send out more, and performance can really be impacted in a positive way.
All right, we have one technical question, and I know this might not be specific for Jay because it's a HubSpot question. But that said, our HubSpot technologist is on the webinar. I see her here. So Emma, if you want to chat to Gary here, she wants to know if you can A/B test the friendly from within HubSpot. So we will let Emma, if she's listening to me, respond in chat and answer that one. Then Ellen here has said, what would you recommend in the friendly from if emails are being sent from individual sales consultants? In other words, should we use recruiter, worrying that might be off-putting?
Yeah, well, a couple things there. And I should have talked about this. So one of the other great tests is saying things like, let's say the person's name is Jen, right? So Jen from Acme, right? As your friendly from, not like, literally it says Jen and then FROM, Acme, ACME, right? And things like that. So where you're tying in the person and their affiliation from the company. So it's another way to include brand and person. That does really, really well. You don't need the last name for that. So I would test that versus just brand versus just the person's full name. See, the person's full name is a little bit, it can work well, but the issue there is, unless your name is like Charles Schwab, and everybody knows who Charles Schwab is, putting the fame type thing aside, right? If it comes from Jen Lombardi and that person's a consultant, chances are they don't know Jen Lombardi, right? So they're going to open it up thinking, do I know that person? and they're going to be like, sort of almost like a trick to open it up, which leads to just not a lot of great results. Whereas if you do Jen from Acme, okay, I got an idea. I don't know Jen, but I know Acme. It stands out a little bit. So that's a worthwhile test.
All right. On that note, I have a question myself. Have you seen any in the friendly from section, any advice on special characters like using the @ symbol or using dashes or pipes or anything like that there?
Yeah, so believe it or not, that's something we're actually looking at right now. We haven't seen anything that really stands out in terms of improving performance. One of the disasters that's going on right now is, we're heading into a season where a lot of political emails, right? A lot. Over the next 60 days, it's going to be vomitational how many political emails we get. And one of the things that the political emails are pushing, both parties, is actually using emojis, but not like smiley face emojis, things like circles to stand out in their friendly froms, which is a trend I don't really like. But it'll be interesting to see where the data comes out on all that, because we're seeing an aggressive use of that. So I think 6 months from now, we'll be able to say, yeah, use brackets or use this or use that. But right now, we don't have any data to support doing it.
Cool. Emma responded in the chat in terms of, does HubSpot allow you to A/B test a friendly from? And the answer is yes. She said if you go under the settings tab in both versions of your test, you can have different from names. So if you're HubSpot
Nice.
user, good news there. It's getting hearts and thumbs up. So I think I caught everybody's question who posted in the chat so far, but obviously we have a few more minutes here. So if anybody came up with one while Jay was talking, don't be shy, put it in the chat. I will make sure that he gets to answer that for you.
I know that was a lot to consume. I really do. It's like a fire hose, but hopefully get some tests out of it. Hopefully you find something that's useful. And again, please message me. I'll send you everything I got. And please connect with me on LinkedIn, because I do share a ton of the stats and info on LinkedIn all the time.
Yeah, he has a great email newsletter. If you don't open it, or if you use a service like Unroll Me that kind of takes snapshots of it, you'll get another one that says, hey, you didn't read this. You missed this. So he is not shy about sending follow-up emails.
No, I'm not
One
shy.
thing I did want to mention is we do have another B2B Tech Hug coming up in December. So you can save the date for that. Tuesday, December 13th, again at noon. It's by a wonderful woman named Mary Kate Spires. I just put it in the chat, and it's called Boost Marketing ROI at Your B2B Tech Company by Embracing Metrics. She actually wrote an entire book on this subject that just came out. So she's super smart. Mark that down on your calendar, December 13th.
And she'll talk slower than me, I promise.
Yeah, probably. All right. I do not see any more questions coming in, but Jay has obviously offered to follow up with anybody here, so feel free to email him. I did drop the link for his conference as well. I know we have several people from our agency who have registered for that, so let's show him a little bit of love there as well.
Thank you. Oh, thank you for being here, and everybody. It's nice to meet you all. Let's stay in touch.
Yeah, very cool. All right, we'll give you back your 15 minutes. Bye, everybody.